Most people think that demonic possessions are for horror movies, something that Hollywood made to sell tickets. But there are real men who walk into rooms where it's actually happening, and they've seen things that Hollywood couldn't recreate even if they tried. And so today we're going to look at clips from the Sean Ryan podcast that's going around the internet, going viral, where an exorcist describes in detail demonic levitation, shape shifting, manifestations in detail. And I want you to watch this because the spiritual world is real. The war we are in, the spiritual war, is real. And most people have no idea what they're actually dealing with. But here's what I also want you to see, that there's something more important than what a demon could look like. It's who has authority over it. So let's get into it. Let's check out this podcast episode, clips that I put together, and hit that like button so we can reach more people.
What are some of the things you've seen during an exorcism? Levitation, you had mentioned shape-shifting.
Yeah. If you've seen it on Hollywood, I've seen it. But it's only in about 7% of the cases are you going to see things that are really out there. Most of the cases, the thing that you're going to see the most of is morphing. That's our technical name for it. You're mentioning shape-shifting. We call it morphing, which is basically where the person changes form or shape. And that's about, in the cases that you have, that's about 80 to 90% of what you're going to see, where the person will actually change shape. And so they'll, for example, the women will change, all of a sudden their facial structure changes and it looks like a man. So,
Like a skinwalker.
yeah, exactly. And so there's also certain kind of complexion changes. But the morphing can be everything from just all of a sudden that, women kind of look like a man, all the way down to they'll change into the shape of animals. Usually, like I said, if you're seeing the change of shape, it's telling you something about them. And that's why, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, they tend to be showmen. And so a lot of it's just parlor tricks. You have to know when you're just being played with and just ignore it. Which is with levitation, I just don't tolerate it. I've seen it. And
How many times have you seen it?
I've only seen it twice, but that's only because I tend to see other things like extreme forms of occult knowledge where people know stuff that there's no way this person could ever know this. Exorcists, well, so like if you go to Italy, there's one exorcist, he sees levitation almost all the time. Other exorcists who have done it as long as I have never even seen it. So it changes based upon the particular exorcist. He'll tend to see more things other than once. Seen a lot of morphing, that type of thing. But the one I tend to see the most is occult knowledge or language, speaking languages that there's no way. In fact, I kind of laughed because when they put out the movie Nefarious, they were doing interviews afterwards, and they said, "Oh yeah, we consulted Father Ripperger." And I'm like, I don't remember talking to these guys. So I contacted my, they seemed straightforward enough, and their movie was actually pretty decent as far as it goes. And I'm like, so I asked my...
Two things real quick. If you see me making faces, I'm in a lot of pain right now. I had surgery on my Achilles tendon. I actually ripped my Achilles tendon in half, and I had surgery yesterday. So I'm kind of in some pain. And but I also want to say, if you've never seen the movie Nefarious, watch that movie. Pray before you watch it. Make sure you're covered in prayer. But it is a I would say, very biblically accurate depiction of what demonic possession what actually it looks like in real time. It's a very powerful movie, and I recommend it. All right, let's keep going.
Assistant, do we have any interaction with these guys? No, we got none. Well, then later they said, oh no, we just listened to all these videos, right? But in there they got something wrong though, because there was an actual case where this guy that was possessed started speaking a form of Phoenician that had been defunct for 3,500 years. We didn't even know what he was speaking. We had to write it down phonetically, and then somebody who studies languages took a look at it and said, we think that's how this particular form of Phoenician was spoken. This kid didn't even finish high school. So you'll see, so they'll see different things, but yeah, I've seen levitation twice.
Like I said, what are you thinking when you see levitation?
I get annoyed by it, frankly.
That's it? You just get annoyed?
Yeah, because of the fact that usually they're doing it like the case that I had, one of them was Ball. He likes levitating. So I just don't tolerate it because he's trying to distract you and get you focusing on, well, that's kind of weird. Never seen that before. That's what he's trying to get you to do when you should be focusing on other things and just hammering him. And it's just his way to try and gain control over the particular sessions. So that's why I just don't tolerate it. That's why in the beginning I said those set of prayers we say before we start the formal rite to clamp down on any of that type of thing from happening.
What are some of the other things that you've seen? I mean, have you seen somebody that can turn their head 360 degrees, the spider walk?
Now, before we get to that, because it gets pretty wild, I'm not going to lie, this episode is very strange in what he says that he's witnessed. But did you catch what he said? That the demon is levitating to distract him? I mean, think about that. The enemy wasn't trying to overpower him in that moment, but he was trying to redirect his attention. And that to me sounds kind of like a scheme. Ephesians 6:11 says, put on the full armor of God. You do not want to go in a battle against demons without your armor on, because it says that you need to put that armor on so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Not his power, but his scheme. Because the enemy is a strategist. He'll perform, he'll intimidate, he'll fascinate, just to get your eyes off of what really matters. And I want you to notice something that this exorcist just said. He said he doesn't tolerate it. He said he prays to clamp it down before the session even starts. Now, the conversation is about to get even more intense, like I said, because Sean Ryan asked him something that changed the entire tone of this conversation, and you just heard it. Have you seen heads twist around and people do spider walk? Let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, I haven't seen the 360 degree head turning, but I have seen, you know, where the fingers just are like completely turned back on the thing, or they'll be like this instead of, you know, like this. So you'll see things that you actually see like, and that's actually part of the morphing, in relationship to the thing. Like I said, the thing I tend to see the most is the demons manifesting in their characteristics in a full-blown manner. So once the demons get to a certain point where the threshold, their pain is such, they can't hide from you, they're in the manifestation, because they're controlling the manifestation and they're controlling what you see. But when they reach a certain level, they start breaking down. And so, you know, it's just seeing full-blown more manifestations where they, you know, for example, with Beelzebub, he would always, he looks the same in every case I've ever had him in, where the jaw extends out, the eyes narrow, and then, or the eyes become bloodshot, they narrow, and the top of the head narrows. And the complexion becomes, you know, it looks like someone who's had super bad acne. So you get that kind of complexion change, color changes. I've seen a lot of color changes that you see in people. Saw a woman, she was possessed by a demon who responded to the title Vitae Raptor, which is robber of life. When he finally manifested, literally her face just like caved in and she literally turned completely jet black, like a corpse. And so I'm like, well, there he is. So you'll see things like that.
Do any of these demons intimidate you? Any specific ones?
I've only been scared twice in a session.
And he's going to explain those next. I've noticed that he said the names of demons like Baal, and then he said Beelzebub. I'm not quite certain, personally, that Baal was actually the demon that was in that person, because Baal is really, like when it's talked about in scripture, it is a type of god. It's not a lower rank demon. Same thing with Beelzebub, Prince of Demons. I don't think that he was encountering the Exorcist, but maybe that was a name. Maybe it was lying. Let me know what you think on that. And I'd like to hear your comments on this in general before we move on. But he says he's only been scared twice in all those demonic manifestations, just 2 times. But I want you to listen to what scared him the second time, because it wasn't the demon's appearance. It wasn't levitation. It wasn't morphing. It was the moment he asked God to punish the demon, and God did. Check this out.
It was the first time I did it, and it wasn't about the demon. It was like, I hope I don't do something stupid. But then the only other time was in a case that I worked on where the demon he just would not obey what I was telling him to do. So I just mentally said to God the Father, I said, punish him in a way he's never been punished before. And all of a sudden, the woman who's possessed just goes down on her knees, completely manifests into literally looks exactly like this demon. And all of a sudden, he just screams out this horrific painful scream, but it wasn't loud, not much louder than you and I were talking, but it was the type of sound that Hollywood could not recreate. It was the type of sound where it literally reverberated throughout the entire church. And when I looked at his face when the demon was screaming, the thought that ran through my mind was, that's what hell looks like. This is what someone in hell looks like. And then the other thing that ran through my mind is the severity and exactitude of God's justice, that God will not be mocked. So people are going to, you have to pay for your sin. And he extracts it from the demons. They'll tell you that he sets them up very often to have to suffer some punishment so that the particular sin that they committed is avenged.
Wow. We got one more clip to show you. We're almost done. But Romans 1:18 says the wrath of God. The wrath of God is a real thing. We don't like to talk about that. We don't like to think about that. But what he's experiencing, what he's saying, is something that's experiencing this wrath of God. In Romans 1:18, it says it's being revealed from heaven against all godlessness and wickedness of people, meaning God is not passive. God is not indifferent to evil. His justice is exact. And this man said it himself. God will not be mocked. That's the scripture. And the demon knew it, and the demon felt it. Now, here's what I want you to understand. That same God, that same exact God whose justice made a demon scream like that, sent his son to absorb the justice on you, this type of justice on your behalf on the cross. And I'm going to talk about that at the end, but keep watching because he's going to describe what a demon actually looks like. And it's unlike anything you've probably ever heard.
Can you describe what that looks like when you just talked about the demon manifesting itself in its true form? What did that look like?
So basically, this was Beelzebub. So her face completely morphed. This woman turned into the facial structure of a man. The jaws literally extend out like this. Now the eyes go narrow. Because Beelzebub's the demon of impurity, the eyes go bloodshot, which is an indicator that people who suffer from lust don't see reality for what it is, but the eyes went completely bloodshot. The head narrowed. And then her complexion, as I mentioned, turns into that. But then there's a change in color to where it's a color that no human being can replicate. The authors refer to it as cherry wood color, which is this brown red color that looks like someone who is literally in the middle of a fire burning. So that's what you see. And then of course there is the burnt look around the various facial features, so that there's this darkness or blackness around the particular facial features. And then of course the body gets bulkier in size.
Wow, that's
When
wild.
you talk about the fingers becoming disjointed and what's the recovery period look like?
Strangely enough, there's only certain kinds of affliction that the demons, when they manifest, that the person actually has to recover from. Most of the things like that, the person doesn't feel anything, or they don't have to have any recovery. They come out feeling normal, and things turn back to their natural shape, and they don't have anything to recover from.
No matter where you're watching the show.
Wow. I'll link the full video for you in the description, so you can watch this full one if you'd like to. But I want to tell you something, man. Like this spiritual war that we're in, this reality of demons, people don't like to pay attention to it, or people glorify it. We need to have a middle ground in looking at this, because these are real experiences that are recorded since the time of Jesus. I mean, Jesus cast out demons. They didn't just disappear. They're still here hiding in the dark, waiting to be exposed by us in the light. So just know that scripture doesn't hide what sin leads to. This is the end of the road for everyone that rejects God. Wrath and fury. But here's what I need you to see. This demon, the ones that he's talking about, they're all defeated. Not by a ritual, not by an institution, not by some formal right given to a priesthood. Colossians 2:15 says, having disarmed the powers and authorities, he, meaning Jesus, made a public spectacle of them by triumphing them over by the cross. Jesus he didn't just confront the demonic. He disarmed them at the cross publicly. completely, and the demons know it. James 2:19 knew who Jesus was. It says, you believe there is one God, and that is good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. So realize they don't shudder at some title or a ceremony. They shudder at a name, and his name is Jesus. So here's why I showed you this today. I don't want to fascinate you with something demonic or to scare you. That's never why I make videos about the demonic world. I show you this because people are hungry for proof that there's something more to this life than what they can see. And there is. The spiritual world is real. The war is real. The enemy that we face is real. And he's not playing games with you. He ain't playing games with your life. And here's the truth that the entire conversation was pointing towards without even knowing it. Jesus Christ came to this earth for one reason: to disarm the power that had dominion over you, the power of sin, the power of death, the power of the enemy. And he did it at the cross. He did not come to start a religion. He didn't come to give you a new ritual. He came to set you free. But that freedom requires something from you. It requires your surrender. It requires you to declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, and you will be saved. Not maybe or possibly, you will be saved. That's the authority that no demon can touch. That's the name that makes them shudder, and that is the name available to you right now. Jesus. He loves you. He loves you so much. And so I'm going to ask you to stop this video and to pray to him. Ask him to examine your heart, to reveal any wicked thing in you, and then give it to him. Let him have it. Let him nail that to your cross. Let him take your shame. Let him take your pain, and let him free you right now. It's that simple, it's that real, and it's that powerful. Turn from your sin, turn to Christ, and let him transform you. So if this video opened your eyes, my friends, to something real today, share it with someone who needs it. Because as I said, and I'll say this 1,000 times, the war is real, but so is the victory. And the one that conquered it all is Jesus. So thanks for being here. I love you. If you haven't yet, hit that like button. Let's get this out there to more people. And subscribe to Truth Be Told. I'd love to have you along with me on this journey. We'll see you next time, my friends. Truth Be Told.